Yes.
Welcome viewers to our next episode of Expert Speak series brought to you by Aditi Organic Certifications. So where we've been talking to experts from various areas of organic farming, sustainability to understand some insights, best practices that can be shared with the other communities out there. So my guest today is Kiran Bhaskaran. He is the founder of Indian Farm School. And today he'll be talking to us about points to ponder before taking a plunge into organic farming. So welcome to the show, Kiran.
Thank you so much. It's good to have you myself again in this Expert Speak series, and it's always a privilege. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Recently I know you had a talk on this topic, which is very interesting. So I thought we'll get some points from there and share it with our community out there. So organic farming is now picking up pace. So a lot of people who are probably from traditional sectors are getting into it. People from IT sectors are getting into it. So we're seeing a lot more changes which is happening on that front. But if you were to share some tips or precautions that need to be taken by people who are venturing into organic farming for the very first time, what would those be?
See, basically what happens is when you consider any enterprise for that matter, a business enterprise for that matter, a lot of us actually have a set of mindset as to how to actually come up with a business model, how to make sure that we have a lot of components brought in together into the business model so that it becomes successful. So similar outlook has to be applied in the organic farming field as well. See, normally when we actually consider farming and agriculture and all that, we just have this sense of taking things lightly. Yeah. And taking things in a way that it's okay, we can actually do it. Anybody can do farming, which is absolutely true. But we should actually know that being an organic farmer is it's not very conventional. Yeah. So organic farming is a different monster altogether. So when we actually consider having organic farming as a day in and day out activity and all that, that's when we actually encounter a lot of challenges which are not conventionally seen. So like for example, in organic farming, you don't get to actually market the produce in the conventional way. Yeah. So you need to be a little out of the box. You need to see that whatever you're actually doing is in tandem with the enterprise that you are actually developing. And it is in a way going to be a startup. It is not going to be a farm enterprise also, although it is. But apart from that, there are so many other things that you need to actually ponder about. And it's not something which is conventionally available. The knowledge is not conventionally available in the online also. So that way, there are a lot of things, a lot of challenges, a lot of character to this industry altogether. So we need to actually keep that in mind and accordingly proceed. So first thing that I always advise, I conduct a few first generation farmer trainings and all that for people who are actually coming from other industries, IT field and all that, who are actually getting into organic farming and they want to actually pursue organic farming in a serious way. So for that, I conduct first generation farmer trainings for in organic farming, and so that they can actually have enough knowledge about how to actually pick things up and take it and turn it into a successful enterprise. So it involves a lot of things which are not conventionally seen. So when I actually take up this thing and when I start interacting with the farmers, the prospective farmers, I actually end up realizing that a lot of notions which are more of corporatish end up actually creeping into the way they actually think, right? So that's something which may be applicable, but we need to actually see that from a standpoint of being an organic farmer, right? An enterprise or an entrepreneur. So that's when things get a little interesting. So learning is the biggest step that you should actually take. One should take, and the learning actually does not stop. So primarily, when you actually consider learning organic farming or agriculture, most of us actually go online and check out the videos and learn from the secondary sources and all that, which is great. But it is nothing like the actual act of, doing it and learning it. So primary learning is what you should actually aim for. That's my first point. So whenever you actually have this zeal of actually, pursuing organic farming and all that, always do a little bit of volunteering at organic farms. See if you can actually visit the farms and live the farmer's life. Right? It's not going to be something which you can actually, pick it up from watching videos and all that. You need to go there, get there, and get your hands dirty, and see for yourself what are the different practices and steps that are actually applicable there, which I'm pretty sure that you will not find in conventional farming scenario, because most of them are very proactive, and most of these practices are very proactive, and something which is not available very easily, right? So you will actually have a primary learning scenario where you will learn about the practices and everything. At the same time, you should also actually make sure that you have a guru or a mentor who can actually help you out in developing your farm. So the reason why I actually say this is, how much ever you actually learn about organic farming and all that from different sources, there's always somebody out there who actually knows better than you about that particular knowledge. So you will you can always concur with a lot of people. You can discuss with a few people in the industry and all that, and see if it actually fits well, and if it is going to be very successful, because effectiveness is something that you need to actually check. And in organic farming or any agriculture for that matter, when you are dealing with nature, you only realize that you have made mistake by after about quite a bit of time and resources, whatever has been actually spent and everything. And at the end of the day, when you actually realize it, you have already incurred a lot of cost. And if it is affordable mistake, then you are in good page and you can actually go ahead. But if it is something which you have actually incurred in a big way, the cost and everything of making that mistake, then your motivation, your future sense, and the clarity about your mission and the passion that you have, everything gets clouded. So that's why it is very important, before you actually venture into organic farming as a first generation farmer, you should have somebody who you can actually talk to, who you can actually, that's where this particular primary learning comes in. So because when you are learning at a farm or at an ashram, that's where I actually learned. I learned at an ashram where I did seva and service, and that's how I actually got to know about organic farming practices and everything. That's an example. So you can actually go ahead and have a few of your colleagues at that particular farm or ashram, and have them as your mentors. And it is extremely important that you have mentors. And the third point is I always advise this, when you actually start small, right? You start small, your the magnitude of mistakes are also very limited. So you can afford those mistakes. So when you start, if you have like 50 acres of land, don't start with the 50 acres of land. Start with just quarter acre of the land, a small piece of land, where you can actually create a garden or a model farm for yourself, for that particular farm, and then take it forward from there. Because as you actually progress from quarter acre to 2 acres to 5 acres to 10 acres and all that, keep increasing the size, you actually will realize that you are also developing your business model.
Correct.
You're also developing your operational model, and what are the different challenges that you keep encountering on season to season basis, and how you can actually overcome them, and what has actually applied for quarter acre is also applicable for the entire 50 acres also. So because that's very indigenous to that particular plot, which has its own character and personality, just like us human beings. So every land and every agricultural land and a farm has its own character. So we would have actually developed a model which is extremely innate and extremely intrinsic to that particular piece of land. So that's what we should actually look forward to. And the last but not the least is that always play safe. Never gamble, never, if you actually have, I know that, when you actually enter from a different industry as a first generation farmer, what happens is, we are, confident, we actually are, thrilled about the new beginnings and everything, and we want to actually romanticize the organic farmer's life and everything, and then, get on with the entire journey. But what happens is that, when we are too blinded about the entire process in the beginning itself, that's when we end up actually making mistakes also. So we end up actually romanticizing the entire thing and everything, and we put everything inside, and and we want everything to work, and we would have actually imagined that everything will work. But imagination does not run the world. The realities actually run the world. So we need to always realize that, logic and rationale trumps everything else in the world. So you should actually approach this particular, entrepreneurial journey as an entrepreneur, not as a poet or somebody who actually is into.
That's very nicely put in there, that you need to approach it like a entrepreneur and not a poet. Now,
Yes,
whenever
you have to be stingy. You have to be
correct.
stingy. You have to be miserly. You have to make sure that whatever you are actually putting in there is absolutely necessary. Only if it is critical, only then you can actually put it inside. And a lot of people, what they do is, in the beginning, when we have a lot of money and all that, in the beginning, it's a finite source. Money is a finite source. So when we actually enter the entire process of organic farming and all that, we are too thrilled to actually, to do away with things which are not needed. Right? You only have to actually invest in working capital and make sure that you have as much jugaad as possible in the entire scene. And make sure that whatever you are actually doing or an activity, that has to be absolutely critical to the activity of organic farming. Critical. It should not be just okay, I can actually make do with it, or I can live without it for another year or 2 years. Postpone it. You don't have to actually do it right away, right?
So I think that mindset is what is very important, to have that entrepreneurial mindset, and
absolutely
not just theory, but also look at it from a practical doing perspective. Now, when I look at it from an entrepreneur standpoint, one of the other key aspects would also be, how would you kind of do your research and look at data and, have that some amount of analysis done before you venture into any business, right? So if we were to take and apply that from an organic farming standpoint, what should be the data that they should be looking into, some indicators into that, or how should they be going about with the research actually?
See, I'm actually, reminded about, when you spoke about the data, I'm actually reminded about Narayan Murthy, the famous Narayan Murthy's, line that says, "In God we trust, but for everything else I need data." So it's a very formidable statement to actually make, and it is extremely relevant to any field. So when you actually consider, data and information, and we are primarily talking about research, isn't it? So research, when you actually talk about the research, most of the times when we get into organic farming enterprise, we actually overlook and tend to overlook all the negatives or, the unfavorable aspects about organic farming. So that's where things get very tricky. So because when we are actually, when we are driven by passion and all that, passion is great, and it is something which we can, have in our stride. And passion is when you actually, don't feel, asleep even at night. So it's something which is constant, which is always there in you. So that is great. But we should also actually realize that sometimes when we have to make decisions, informed decisions and business decisions, passion does not feature there. The actual, the realities on the ground, the pragmatic part of the entire business is what actually features there. So accordingly, we have to, keep that in mind and come up with a system of actually researching before we taking up any informed decision, right? It's called informed decision for a reason. So when we actually take up we take up any decision, always make sure that you actually are, you're a primary party to that particular decision, right? So when I say primary party, you should actually conduct your research and conduct your own data accumulation and everything on your own. Like, for example, I'll just give an example that would be much better. So if a farm actually has been affected by aphids, so a lot of aphids can be seen across the field or so, and we need to actually find out the solution to actually organically eradicate this challenge, right, or overcome this challenge. So how do we go about it? So we normally go about actually doing research as to what will work on this particular challenge, and what can be actually most suitable for your piece of land and for your the proximity. Like, for example, whatever solutions that you might actually find may not be available, the solutions may not be available or applicable for your land. So you need to actually keep that in mind and accordingly actually go ahead with it. So, and even when you have found the solutions, conduct a small bit of experiment in-house and see for yourself. There's a concept there's a concept called Pratyaksha Pramana in traditional knowledge, in Indian traditional knowledge. So Pratyaksha Pramana is where, so if somebody is saying that, okay, this particular solution is going to work, like 100 people might actually tell you that this solution is going to work. But if you see that there is an alternative solution that has worked with your eyes, and you have witnessed it, so that knowledge from Pratyaksha Pramana, which this is Pratyaksha Pramana, whatever you have actually witnessed, trumps all the 100 knowledge that you actually have been fed with, right? So this actually ends up building your wisdom. This is called wisdom for the fact that it is experiential knowledge. It is gained through experience. So when you actually gain something through experience, you end up actually going ahead with the entire thing. So always go for primary research. Never go for something that you actually listen from a lot of people, because that person's circumstances, the different parameters, everything
A
might
lot
be
of
completely
variables which you may not be privy to. True.
absolutely. So that's why it is very important that whatever you are actually learning and you are researching about and everything has relevance in your land, in your farm, and it should not be taken just because somebody else has actually said it online, or there's another this thing, success stories or so. So even for success stories to become success, there are so many other factors that has influenced that particular success story, which may not be, like 99% of those parameters may not be relevant to your farm. So that's why primary understanding, the primary knowledge is extremely important. Never go by the secondary knowledge. Yeah.
So moving from research, the next important aspect for any entrepreneur mindset or approach would actually be planning, right? From a market planning standpoint. So what is the market planning which would be required for organic farming perspective, and why is this so vital for it?
See, the problem with the organic farming as an industry is that it does not have a marketplace. So a conventional agricultural produce finds its marketplace in the APMCs, in the normal market and everything, but you won't have the same kind of attention being given to the organic produce, isn't it? So that's why it is very important as an entrepreneur for you to actually create your own market. So how do you actually do that is by actually, like, for example, I take up this example of vegetable farming, organic vegetable farming, because that's what even I have actually done at the beginning of my own journey as an organic farmer, 11 years ago. So when you actually take up organic farming, you should know who are your customers. So who are your customers? Basically, it might be, upper income group, people who can actually afford to pay whatever premium that you are quoting for your produce, for its for its freshness, for its organic sanctity, and the sheer value of the produce that you are actually offering, isn't it? So it could be a housing society right next to your farm, right? You know, or it could be a residential apartment or so. You can actually go conduct your own mystery shopping, conduct your own mock marketing, just so that you understand and realize what are the pain points of the customers. So most of the people in Bangalore are afraid of the vegetables because they are treated with a lot of chemicals, and they are actually treated with a lot of apathy, because when you are even processing the vegetables also, like washing the vegetables also at the farmer's end, it is actually treated with a lot of preservatives and ways to actually extend the entire life of the vegetables and all that. So that this is a very critical pain point of a customer. So we need to actually realize this, and accordingly, how do you actually fix that particular pain point is something that you should actually do. So as an organic farmer myself, I used to do one small thing, which is, if I'm actually marketing the radish or so, I would let the leaves of the radish be. I would not take it out, because that way I'm actually ensuring that it becomes a reflection of the freshness of that particular radish, because the first thing to actually wilt in that particular radish is its leaves, right? So it goes drowsy, and then it starts seeping into the radish, and radish becomes not very fresh. So when you see that, when you hold the radish and you actually see that the leaves are actually standing up, so that becomes the entire standpoint of the freshness, right? And at the same time, when you actually think about marketing it and all that, it is most suitable to go for a subscription model. So subscription model is when you actually enroll customers in that particular housing society, for example, to enroll with you on a monthly basis.
Correct.
So where you are offering, every household needs a certain set of vegetables, isn't it? So those vegetables you are offering at whatever quantities that they are actually looking forward to, and in whatever resolving whatever pain points they have, and making sure that they actually get the best quality, best value for whatever they are actually looking for. And make sure that every time, like it could be weekly interval or so, every time you are delivering these vegetables, they are of prime quality, right? So in that sense, you would have actually tapped into their hearts and minds. Correct. That there's a very reliable source. Correct. And I will actually go ahead with the entire this particular vendor of the organic farming produce, right? So similarly, when you have established this particular model of subscription model and all that, it opens up a lot of windows, which is basically it opens up market for selling groceries. It opens up market for fruits, and commodities, and even the condiments, everything, milk, even milk is a great addition. So every household needs these things. Correct. So you can plug into those needs and become the one good vendor of those people, of those customers, and that way you end up actually. So this is what we call creating the consumer base, your own market. So these people will not leave you. So correct. Even because once you have established their trust and the faith in your produce and everything, and when they see that you're offering very healthy vegetables, which are actually helping their health as well, there's no way that they will leave you. Sure. And even if you actually, after about 6 months or so, you increase the price of the vegetables and all that by 10%, they'll they may say that it is very expensive and all that, but they will eventually come to you. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it.
So I think some very interesting insights you shared. One, from a mindset standpoint, how it's important to be like an entrepreneur and not a poet. Second, from a research standpoint, where you actually look at more primary research by doing yourself, collecting data, analyzing it, vis-a-vis just hearing someone else's success story and just basing your strategy on that. And third, practically some tips which they can do from a marketing standpoint, and then eventually have as continued customers through a subscription model. So thanks, Kiran, once again for sharing these valuable tips. And I'm sure the audience out there will benefit a lot from this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for having me. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.